Welcome children. Today we are going to start with a new chapter of geography, chapter 2, Globe, Latitudes and Longitudes. Now what are we going to learn in this chapter? We will be learning about the globe. We will be learning about the two important imaginary lines that runs on the globe, that is the latitudes and the longitudes, important latitudes, heat zones of the earth, and how longitude and time are related. But in this video, we will be looking for the globe, latitudes, important latitudes and heat zones of the earth. Now what is this? I know, each one of you know it, that this is a globe. But what is the purpose of showing you the globe? Okay, we will just come up. The purpose to show you the globe is to make you understand how our earth look like. It is very important to understand that earth is not a complete perpendicular, but it is tilted as it is shown in the globe. And next is the spinning of the earth. That is the direction in which the earth moves. That is, the earth spins from west to east, that is in an anti-clockwise direction. So now we are ready to define the globe. So globe is a true model of the earth, as you could see from the picture of the globe itself. Now what are the advantages of a globe? It shows the exact shape of the earth, as I had told you before also. The location of the continents and ocean is shown correctly on the globe, and it also shows the important imaginary lines, that is the latitudes and longitudes, which are actually absent on the earth. They are just the imaginary lines, but they are drawn in the physical form on the globe so that it becomes easy for you to find the location of a place. Now, what are the disadvantages? Being heavy and bulky, it is very difficult to carry, and it does not show all the details of a place, and also you can see only a part of the earth on the globe at one time. Before we move further, let us also know what is an axis. If you see the dotted line here in this picture, the dotted line indicates the perpendicular of the earth. But I told you before that earth is not a complete perpendicular, it is tilted. So that tilt is known as the axis. And the earth is tilted at 23.5 degrees. Thus, it is an imaginary line that passes through the center of the earth and touching the North Pole and the South Pole. Now let us go with the first imaginary line, that is the latitude. See the first picture. You see the equator. Equator is like a diameter of a circle. Here the equator is the longest latitude passing from the center of the earth and situated at 0 degree. If you could just make out from the figure itself, the equator divides the earth into two equal hemispheres, that is the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. Now come back to the second picture. Just be very clear. All the latitudes which are lying in the northern hemisphere are the north latitudes, and all the latitudes lying to the south of the equator or in the southern hemisphere are the south latitudes. If you could just go with the picture once again, you would see the distance between the latitude, it remains the same, right? But the size is decreasing towards the poles. Therefore, they are also known as parallels. Right? Here we can define the latitude in a different way also, that it is the distance of a place to the north and the south of the equator. So now we are in position to go with the characteristics of the latitudes. Right? They are the imaginary lines running from west to east as the direction of the earth. They do not intersect, so the latitudes are also known as the parallels. The length of the latitude keep on decreasing as it moves towards the poles or away from the equator. Equator is the longest latitude. Now, with the picture, please see at the picture. In the picture, if you would see that in the northern hemisphere, the latitudes which have been marked is from 10 to 90, 10 degree to 90 degree. Similarly, in the southern hemisphere, from 10 degree to 90 degree. So, there are 90 latitudes in the northern hemisphere and 90 latitudes in the southern hemisphere. So, total latitudes is 180 and one is the equator, right? So, the total number of latitudes on the globe is 181. Now, we are learning these latitudes in reference to Earth. So, it is very important to understand that they are total 181 latitudes, yes, on the Earth. But again, I am telling you children, they are not the physical lines. They are just the imaginary lines which are there on the Earth, right? And how are these latitudes used? They are used to know the different heat zones on the Earth. Now children, in the previous picture you saw that the different latitudes were marked from 10 degrees to 90 degrees, right? Each latitude has a value which is calculated in degree, right? But here we need to understand that there are certain latitudes which help us to know about the heat zones. So let us go and learn those latitudes. They are very important latitudes on this Earth. It is the equator, which is at 0 degree. In the north, it is Tropic of Cancer at 23.5 degrees north, right? An Arctic Circle at 66.5 degrees north. And the North Pole, yes, you know that North Pole is at 90 degrees. North or south? North, yes. Now we'll come back to the southern latitudes. Tropic of Capricorn at 23.5 degrees south, Antarctic Circle at 66.5 degrees south, and the South Pole at 90 degrees south. We need to understand one thing from this picture, children, that the distance between the Tropic of Cancer and the equator is same as the distance between the equator and the Tropic of Capricorn. Right, but most important to understand is that since Tropic of Cancer is lying in the northern hemisphere, so it has a suffix degree north, and Tropic of Capricorn is lying in the southern hemisphere, so it has a suffix degree south. Okay, now what does this picture tells? This picture gives us an idea the amount of the sun rays being received by the different regions on the Earth. Here the first picture is showing about the equator. Equator always receive the direct rays of the sun, children. Direct rays of the sun, right? And as you know that the Earth is tilted, right? So the different areas receive the different amount of the sun rays. Therefore, I showed you the previous picture where I have shown the important latitudes, right? And that is the only division of the heat zones. This picture will also gives you an idea, children, that how the angle of the sun rays is decreasing as it is moving towards the poles. Thus, on the basis of the insolation or the sun rays received by the surface of the Earth is divided into three important zones. That is the torrid zone, temperate zone, and the frigid zone. Now, this is a picture which clearly describes that where does the tropics, that is the torrid zone lies, where does the temperate zone lies, and where does the frigid zone lies. Let us discuss each of them in detail. Now, children, it is very, very important to understand the position of the torrid zone. Right? The torrid zone lies between the equator and the Tropic of Cancer in the north, and the equator and the Tropic of Capricorn in the south. This region receives the direct vertical rays of the sun for almost whole year. Beyond the torrid zone, the midday sun never shines overhead on any latitude. So torrid zone experience maximum heat. But here we need to understand one thing, children, that once in a year, either the Tropic of Cancer or the Tropic of Capricorn receives the direct rays of the sun. Now we would see another zone, that is the temperate zone. The area lying between the Tropic of Cancer and the Arctic Circle in the north is the North Temperate Zone, and between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Antarctic Circle in the south is the South Temperate Zone. This area, that is the temperate zone, experiences the moderate temperature. Why? Because the angle of the sun rays decreases during this time. Means that the North Temperate Zone and the South Temperate Zone receives the horizontal rays of the sun. Not complete, but with the decreased angle. Now the last one, that is the Frigid Zone. The Frigid Zone lies between the Arctic Circle in the north to North Pole in the north, known as the North Frigid Zone, and between the Antarctic Circle and the South Pole in the south, known as the South Frigid Zone. This zone is also known as the polar region, since it receives the slanting rays of the sun, and the temperature is extremely low throughout the year. In the frigid zone, the sun does not rise much above the horizon, so it is a coldest zone. Okay, now what is horizon? Horizon is a point where the land and the earth meets. The only concept that help us to understand the heat zone is that the earth axis is tilted. At here, one of the tropics, that the Tropic of Cancer or Tropic of Capricorn, receives the direct rays of the sun. Why? Because at one time, either of the hemisphere, that the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, will be tilted towards the sun. Now, this is the activity for you children. Complete this activity, learn the important latitudes and fill this. I will be seeing you in the next part, where we will be discussing about the longitude and the time.